Coming up this week on Talk with Audrey, Carley, President and CEO of Benedictine. He's a senior care expert, and we're going to talk about how to speak to our elderly parents about the benefits of living in a community. Jeremy Walter, Sustainability Ambassador for Republic Services, has some of the myths and truths about recycling and what really happens to plastic bottles when you toss them in the recycling bin. David Sampson, President and CEO of the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, and Dr. Barrett, Wildfire Research and Policy Analyst at Headwaters Economics, talk to me about the extreme risk of wildfire in the U.S. and why it's important to take steps that will enhance the resilience of your home and business. And then beauty trends expert Valerie Greenberg is here with unique fragrance ideas for all the personalities on your holiday gift list. It's all coming up this week on Talk with Audrey. Insightful, intelligent, and inspiring conversations and information to help you improve the quality of your life. It's all about the business of living. I'll be right back after this. You're watching Talk with Audrey. Welcome back. November is a month to recognize the amazing caregivers across America. It's also important that caregivers know that they don't have to go it alone or feel overwhelmed, and that there are resources available, including senior living options, that they can consider for their loved ones. Joining me to talk about modern senior care and the best way to start that conversation with your loved ones about planning ahead, Carley, President, CEO of Benedictine, is a senior care expert, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome.
Thank you, Audrey. I appreciate your time.
And thank you for joining me. So there's been a lot of talk about caregiving for our elders and what we need to do, how we need to set things up, and of course have those conversations. But senior living has changed over the years. Can you tell us about some of the myths that people have heard about?
Yeah, no, the timing is perfect. You know, November is National Caregivers Month, and like many people, including myself, who was a caregiver when my father was ill, we have to navigate these waters very carefully. And there's quite a few myths out there. One of the myths that I see, and of course I've been doing this for over 30 years, is that senior care communities are boring and isolating. Well, you know, the truth is senior living campuses today offer full calendars of activities, all kinds of entertainment. There's ongoing educational opportunities for those lifelong learners. There's community outings and all kinds of avenues for people to meet with friends and enjoy life. So the idea that they're boring and isolating just isn't true anymore. A second myth is that a person gives up their privacy when they move into a senior care community. And in fact, assisted living and independent living facilities are designed as apartments, and they provide a great deal of privacy similar to what one would experience in an apartment complex that they may live in. And even newer skilled nursing care facilities are built with more private rooms than ever before, especially those that are designed for short-term rehabilitation facilities or that might have a rehabilitation wing attached to the nursing home itself. So those are some of the bigger myths that I see out there that I hear from folks that think about the traditional nursing home or care center of the past.
And so senior communities aren't dreary places to live. I'm actually familiar with a couple of communities, and they certainly were not what I expected. I mean, people were vibrant. They were out golfing, riding bicycles, walking, doing art, living.
Exactly. You know, at one point, you used to think of nursing homes as a place where one would go to die. Well, that's not the case. I mean, these are vibrant communities where people go and they enjoy life. They find out what their next purpose is in their life as they age gracefully. And so you're exactly right. They're vibrant communities, much different than they were 30, 40 years ago.
Well, if you're a family who's looking for a senior living community, what should you look for in that community?
Well, what I tell folks, and in fact, I did this when my dad was sick, is take a tour of facilities. Go look at them, and look for those residents and visit with them if you have an opportunity. Because I'm telling you, if those residents are happy, they will be the strongest advocates of the community and will share what it is really like to live there. You can look at all kinds of papers and documents and articles about these communities, but ask those residents. They're going to be your true source of what it's like. You know, of course, you want to look for the cleanliness and meals, and try to have a meal while you're there because you want to make sure that the meals are good and such. And one of the more important things that I tell folks to do is look at the staff members. Smiling staff members indicate that they enjoy their work. this will most definitely carry over to the care that they provide to your loved one or to yourself if you're moving into one of these communities.
And talk about the differences between independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing care.
Yeah, sure, Audrey. There are quite a few differences amongst the three care levels that are mentioned. First of all, with the independent living, these are really for individuals that are generally active and healthy. They're looking for maintenance-free living, an active lifestyle. They want to socialize, as you mentioned, maybe find some new friends, as well as security. Just individuals that said, I don't want to care for my home anymore, but I'm still active and want to be a productive part of society. Assisted living, I describe it as being the bridge between independent living and skilled nursing care. Generally, it's ideal for people who require a little bit of help with daily living activities, but they don't have that complex medical care, and they desire to socialize with friends in an apartment-style setting. So assisted livings generally are still structured as assisted living communities, more like apartment complexes. Skilled nursing care, on the other hand, this particular level provides the highest level of care outside of a hospital. Candidates for this level of care include those with chronic health issues or an illness with a prolonged recovery, or they might need assistance with medication management, bathing, or dressing. Or it could be just an individual who needs intense rehabilitation following some form of a medical procedure. For example, they might have had a hip or a knee replacement and they need strong therapy providers and intense therapy over a shorter period of time before they go home or to another level of care.
Well, I'm sure there are some seniors that will probably take it upon themselves to pre-plan, but what if your loved one hasn't thought about that? How do you initiate that conversation?
That's the tricky part, right? How do you have the conversation without them saying, "Okay, are you going to place me tomorrow?" That's what you don't want to have happen. So really, it's never too early to start a conversation with a loved one. In fact, having the conversation early when a move is not imminent is much easier to have with a loved one versus something happens and now you have to make a decision. Because this honestly, this can be an emotional conversation that is much better to have when all parties know that the need to make a move will be made in the future, not tomorrow, but maybe months or years down the road. It just helps all those involved with have a clear understanding of expectations if a decision must be made quickly due to some form of an unexpected health situation. That's what happened with my dad specifically. Boom, here it was, and we had to make a decision. But we had that conversation early. So when you do meet, listen with your full attention and let the conversation flow. As you mentioned, Audrey, don't push it. Don't say this is what we have to do. And consider asking questions versus providing answers. So for example, with my dad, I would say, "Dad, if you needed care, what would you like to see happen?" That helped us frame up where his comfort level is in this decision, as well as where he would like to go. So listening is key, and honestly, you're the first person to calm those fears or concerns, but it's very important with how you approach that conversation early on.
And where can we go for some more information, Jerry?
Yeah, well, to learn more about choosing the right care community or to find a Benedictine living community near you, go to www.benedictineliving.org. You can find all kinds of resources there, not only about Benedictine, but some resources to help you choose the right care community, senior living community for you or your loved one in the event that you need to do some research around that particular topic.
Jerry Carley, President and CEO of Benedictine, has been my guest. If you're a caregiver or senior needing care or community, explore the possible resources and consider planning ahead before the need arises. Jerry, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Audrey. I really appreciate it.
There's more to come on Talk with Audrey after the break. You're watching Talk with Audrey. When it comes to recycling, don't give up on plastic just yet. There's a misconception that plastic isn't really recycled, but that's not the case. Joining me now to help us with some of the myths and truths about recycling and what really happens to plastic bottles when you toss them in the recycling bin, Jeremy Walter, Sustainability Ambassador for Republic Services. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right, so you know all things recycling. I know that I recycle, and just about everyone else I know recycles. Why is it important that we make the effort to recycle in the first place?
Well, when we think about recyclables as materials themselves, right, we're conserving natural resources. They're derived from something that comes from the earth. And rather than throwing them away and then having to extract new materials, if they go through the recycling process, they can be used over and over again. So a lot of environmental benefits associated with that process. And then there's also economic benefits, from jobs to actual value in the material itself.
There are all kinds of plastics, but what kinds of plastics should we be recycling?
Yeah, it's important to remember that not all plastics are created equal. So when it comes to recycling, recycle rigid plastic containers. So think bottles, jugs, and tubs. There's problematic plastics that we see all too often come to the recycling center, and that's the flexible stuff. So grocery bags, bubble wrap, if you shop online a lot, those air-filled pillow packs that show up at the doorstep. Keep the flexible stuff out and only recycle the rigid plastic containers.
Okay, so what about our water bottles? Are we recycling those or returning them for a couple of cents?
Definitely recycle the water bottles. There's an interesting statistic out there, though, that shows that there's some work to be done, and only 30% of our water bottles are getting recycled. And that's not for lack of process, it's because only 3 out of 10 water bottles are even making it into the recycling bin to begin with. So us as consumers got to do a better job of making sure that they go into the recycling bin.
And water bottles are not being recycled because people just toss them versus making the effort to recycle them.
Yeah, and understandably so, right? Someone might be out at a park somewhere, walking down a city street, they consume a water bottle and they don't see a recycling container in sight and just goes straight in the trash can, or maybe at home they're just not making the effort to ensure that they're going in the recycling bin. But again, they're good, valuable materials that can find a second, third, fourth, fifth life so long as we put them in the recycling bin.
What about some of the myths about recycling plastics? You mentioned that we should definitely be recycling the rigid ones and the water bottles, but not the bubble wrap or the plastic bags. But the bubble wrap and plastic bags are plastic. So help us understand the difference.
Yeah, it can be confusing as a consumer, and rightfully so. We think that anything that's plastic goes in the recycling bin, and it can't. And the flexible stuff, think about it like a vacuum cleaner. You're vacuuming around the house and it's got a roller. Over time, your hair may wrap and tangle around the roller. That same concept applies, right? When a grocery bag comes to the recycling center, we're using a lot of disc screens and mechanical separation to sort everything. Those actually wrap and tangle around the sorting equipment. So you can take them back to some retail stores. They may have a little drop off at the front of the store. You can place it in there. That's source separated material. It's not mixed with bottles and cans and paper. That can then potentially go off to a recycler if there's a market for it, but that's why we got to keep it out of the bin.
All right, and I know that Republic Services has some news. You're opening a polymer center in Las Vegas. Tell us about it.
Yeah, very exciting. Polymer Center is going to really advance circularity of plastics. So think about right now, a water bottle, when it goes through the recycling process, it doesn't always become a water bottle again. It's turned into sometimes carpeting or synthetic fibers, commonly polyester for clothing, sometimes backpacks, shoes, things like that. So it's kind of a linear process if you think about it in that sense. You put a water bottle in there, it becomes a piece of clothing, and when that clothing item is no longer usable, you throw it away. It's end of life. But what Polymer Center is doing is we're going to be taking the plastic, we're collecting it, Republic, at the curb, taking to a facility to be sorted from all the other material. And then when it goes to Polymer Center, we're actually going to be grinding it up into flakes. Here's your bottle, and then here's the little cap and ring around it. And what this is going to enable is maybe your favorite soda company who wants to make new soda bottles. They can take that plastic and make a new bottle again. It's a circular economy. We're closing that loop, and this water bottle can continuously be recycled through that circular process.
Amazing, and just the thought process that has to go into actually making all of this happen is even more amazing. Where can we go for some more information?
Recyclingsimplified.com. It's a great website, lots of resources, videos, tips, tricks, activities for the kids, and even downloadable curriculum for teachers.
Cool. Jeremy Walters has been my guest. He's Sustainability Ambassador for Republic Services. Thanks for helping us understand the recycling process.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I'll be right back. Welcome back. With an estimated 4.5 million properties at high or extreme risk of wildfires in the U.S., it's never been more important to take steps that will enhance the resilience of your property. In response to growing wildfire risk, the Federal Wildland Fire Mitigation and Management Commission recently released its final report on fire, the report of the Wildland Fire Mitigation and Management Commission. Joining me to discuss mitigating property damages and the wide range of themes and recommendations developed by the Commission, David Sampson, President and CEO of the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, and Dr. Kimmy Barrett, Wildfire Research and Policy Analyst at Headwaters Economics. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, we have a lot to talk about. Let me start with you, David. Tell us more about the Wildland Commission and some of the themes and recommendations from its report.
Well, the commission was created by Congress as a part of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act to take the first real comprehensive relook at federal, state, local, tribal approaches to managing wildfire in about 50 years. And all of the recommendations within the report were included by unanimous consensus by all members of the commission, which was very diverse and represented a wide range of expertise and interest. And I think that's very significant. The major theme of the report is that we have to move from a reactive stance to a proactive stance. In other words, we can't just focus on suppression. We're never going to suppress our way out of this crisis. We've got to focus on before the fire starts to mitigate that risk through reduction of fuel loads. It all begins there. And I guess the three main recommendations that I would highlight is, first of all, the need for better risk identification. That means investments in data and technology and tools to better inform and manage fuel loads, to predict and detect early ignition, and to harden utility infrastructure. Secondly, pre-disaster mitigation, preparedness, and response. And third, more emphasis on post-fire recovery. We can't just build back the way we did prior to the disaster occurring. We need to be much smarter in how we build back and build in resilience and mitigation to our communities that are exposed to wildfire danger.
It's building back that seems to be a huge issue because, of course, you have to build back differently. Kimmy, what are some of the key steps that consumers should be taking to reduce the potential impact from wildfires?
Yeah, so there are really three key things that a homeowner can do to reduce potential impact from wildfires. So first and foremost is to remove flammable materials in and around the home. Decades of research and science demonstrate that a home's building materials, the design, and the landscape are critical determinants of a home survivability from a wildfire. And so by reducing the amount of flammable surface area on the property and home itself, you're minimizing chances of the home burning from embers and individual spot fires. This is really important. And of course, it needs to be complemented by broader neighborhood compliance, neighborhood planning, community efforts, and fuels reduction as well. But second to that is to talk with your neighbor. Because if one home is fully mitigated, but the neighborhood is not itself, then the entire exposure is still increased. And so it's really important to discuss that these similar mitigation actions and risk reduction strategies are applied home to home across the neighborhood. And then lastly is to prepare for a wildfire before it becomes a disaster. And this really applies to all of us. So this is getting and ensuring that you have adequate air filtration systems, that you have an evacuation plan, that you've met with your fire district and had a site level assessment performed. And then, of course, speaking with your insurance provider. It's really important that all of us anticipate this increasing risk and that we've done all that we can with our neighbors and with the community at large to minimize the worst outcomes.
Well, David, I know, of course, that when you're rebuilding and even when you're mitigating your risk, insurance is going to come into play. So what preparedness steps can be done from an insurance perspective to prepare for wildfires?
Well, building off what Kimmy just said, is create a 5-foot safe zone around your house, no combustible material. Secondly, retrofit your house by replacing the vents on your attic's eaves and crawl spaces with very fine meshed vents that prevent the embers from entering into those areas. We know scientifically that that's how most homes catch on fire, through embers that are transported on the winds from 4 to 5 miles away. Third, I would say, is talk to your insurance agent or broker and make sure that you have the coverage that you need based on your exposure. And even if you're renting a property, you can get rental insurance. And finally, I would say, take your phone and go around your house and make a video of a video inventory of your home. This will be helpful in the claims process if the worst happens. Obviously, your insurer is going to be there to help you rebuild, but anything that can be done to do an inventory of your home on your phone will be very helpful in that claims process.
Document, and be prepared. What about the cost implications, Kimmy, for consumers and communities related to being more prepared for wildfires?
Right. So building a home to be more wildfire prepared can be done affordably and effectively with existing building materials, many of which are already on the market and being used widespread, but commonly not known for wildfire resistance, such as an asphalt shingled roof or fiber cement siding or dual pane tempered glass windows, already being in use because of energy efficiency standards. But again, they're not commonly associated with wildfire resistance as well. And many of these products are cheaper in some cases than traditional building materials. But as noted by David, what I think is really important is that some of the most effective mitigation strategies to the home can be done at no cost at all. And this is things like removing those pine needles from your gutter systems and roof valleys, getting the firewood off your deck, and ensuring that 0 to 5 foot non-combustible zone around the structure itself. And then at a community scale, for some of these improvements to the home and the retrofitting scenarios, and for homeowners who may not be able to afford these costs, there should be subsidies, grants, and incentives provided by the community through state and national level grant opportunities so that we can offset those costs so that everybody, the individual level, all the way to the neighborhood and community scale, can be better prepared for a wildfire.
Covered a lot of ground. Where can people go for more information about how to protect their homes and their businesses?
Yeah, so I would refer people to www.apci.org/wildfire. And that link will take you to the Commission's report itself, the executive summary, as well as a number of consumer tips.
David Sampson, President and CEO of the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, and Dr. Kimmy Barrett, Wildfire Research and Policy Analyst at Headwaters Economics, have been my guests. Thank you both for joining me and for that very valuable information.
Thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. You're watching Talk with Audrey. Welcome back. If you're looking for a few ways to simplify the overwhelming process of holiday shopping, beauty trends expert Valerie Greenberg is here with unique fragrance ideas for all the personalities on your holiday gift list.
The holidays are, of course, the most joyous time of year, but sometimes gift giving can be a little overwhelming. Not to worry, because I've got fragrances for every personality and loved one in your life. Let's get started with the trendsetter. Burberry Fragrance has just launched Burberry Goddess, which is their first refillable scent, and it's inspired by confidence, self-discovery, and strength. It has the trifecta of vanilla, including vanilla caviar, vanilla infusion, and vanilla absolute, topped off with notes of lavender. Next, for that person that doesn't want to let go of summer, look no further than Gucci Flora Gorgeous Magnolia, made up primarily of the Magnolia alba ancient plant, but it's complemented with dewberries accord, which is going to serve to give it that fruity, juicy dimension. It also has notes of jasmine, sambac, and musk, and patchouli essence to really ground it. This fragrance truly exudes cheerfulness. Next, for somebody in your life that's fun-loving, Perfect Marc Jacobs Collector's Edition comes in this beautiful metallic opulent bottle, and it has rhubarb, daffodil, almond milk, cedarwood, as well as cashmere. Marc Jacobs' inspiration really is all about finding joy in being your authentic self. And finally, for that perfectly classic person in your life, here we have the little black dress of fragrances. It is Philosophy Amazing Grace Eau de Parfum. It's elegant, feminine, and classic. This iconic soft floral has a longer lasting concentration of bergamot, musk, and lilies of the valley. A little tip, I like to actually apply the fragrances to my pulse points because it's going to amplify the scents. You can find all of these fragrances for under $200, most under $150 at Macy's.com and Macy's.
And that's it for this week's show. I'm Audrey Adams. Join me here next week for more insightful, intelligent, and inspiring conversations and information to help you improve the quality of your life. It's all about the business of living. I'll see you next week.